Hey guys, what's going on? My name is Xanaton. And welcome to today's video for Legends of Runeterra. I forgot what my own name was for a second there. But yes, we're still in spoiler season. We have more cards that have been revealed today. So, some Bilgewater cards. No new champion, no new keyword. But we got some really good power cards. Really powerful cards. We also got a landmark and just some lurk support, but Bilgewater lurk support. So let's get right into the discussion. Okay, so Rise of the Underworlds coming soon, basically. We got 5 whole new cards. 2 of them are units, which are lurkers, 2 spells, and a landmark. I would say 3 of these cards, in my opinion, are good. Not just good, but insanely good. I wouldn't say OP, but I'd say like really good. Like solid 4 out of 5s, maybe. One of these cards is, well, I don't think it's good. I still think it's playable as like a 1 or 2 of in a deck. And one of these cards I think is kind of bad. Anyway, let's start with the first card. We got Redfin Hammersnout. I think this is one of the good cards. Redfin Hammersnout is a 2-mana 1/2. It's a lurker with lurk, of course. And it says play, grant an enemy vulnerable. That is a really strong playability. I had to think. I was like, that's not the keyword I'm thinking about, but yeah. That is a really strong playability. Giving vulnerable to something is insanely good. Now, is the card good enough for constructed? I think so. I think this is probably one of the better lurk cards out there. Bilgewater in this exact same mana cost had the card Hired Gun before. Hired Gun, if you don't know what it is a 2-mana 2/3 that says when you summon it, you give the strongest enemy vulnerable. I believe is strongest. Granted, you can do some like cute stuff with Hired Gun by like killing and resummoning it right away or whatever because it's summon ability, while Hammer Snout is specifically a playability. I think Hammer Snout is better than Hired Gun, or at least more powerful than Hired Gun. I don't think you would play Hammer Snout over Hired Gun, though, if you're not caring about lurk and lurkers. But the fact that you can choose what you give vulnerable is why I think Hammer Snout is so good. Look at recently in Shurima, Merciless Hunter, and to a lesser extent, Bakai Sandspinner. Those cards have been really powerful. Merciless Hunter is really good because 1, you can choose what you give vulnerable. It has a good keyword in the form of Fearsome, and it has a good stat line. Hammer Snout stat line, it's not that good. You would need like, I'd say probably 2 lurks for you to be happy about a 2-drop to make it a 2-mana 3/2. 2-mana 2/2, it's fine, I guess. But that's why I think Hammer Snout is good. It really helps bridge the early game for your for a lurk deck, if a lurk deck even exists, which I think it does. I think a lurk deck is going to exist here, especially if Pike is good too. If Pike is good too, then Rek'Sai will have a good partner for a lurk deck. If Pike's not so good, Zillion, maybe. But yeah, I like the card. Strong card. Probably one of the more powerful cards we've seen so far. Definite 4 out of 5 for me at the very least, probably. Maybe even stronger. Honestly, 2-mana 1/2 is a good stat line in that it doesn't die to a ping. Sure, it's understated for 2 mana, but the fact that it doesn't die to a ping is good. 2 health, and the difference between 2 and 1 health is insane. Bakai Reaper is good because it can't get pinged compared to, say, like a Bark Beast who hasn't gotten its ability to go off. Mountain Goat being a 3/2 is actually playable. And back when Mountain Goat was a 3/1, it was a literally unknown, unplayable card. So 2 health is really nice. And of course, the playability is insanely powerful too. Helps you fight for board. Gives you potentially a safe attack for your lurk. So crazy card. The next card. This is the card I think that I said is not good, but I think it's still playable as like a 1 or maybe even a 2 of. Bloodbait. Bloodbait is a 1 mana burst spell. It also has Lurk on it, so that's pretty cool. Another spell with a keyword on it. Create a Snapjaw Swarm on top of your deck. Snapjaw Swarm, we already know what it is. It is the 2 mana 0/2. When you play it, you get a free attack in Bilgewater as well. I don't know about this card. This card is really hard for me to evaluate because it's just for me personally, it's hard. I've got my brain like hardwired to thinking like I'm throwing away a card for nothing. In other words, like you are getting something out of this. You're throwing away a card from your hand to get a guaranteed lurk, basically. And sure, you get the Snapjaw Swarm on top, which is somewhat like a good card, but not really. Think like Avaros and Trapper. Like Avaros and Trapper, good card for the cost, but the Yeti itself is a 1 mana 5/5, which is insanely good. But sometimes you will see players not actually play their Avaros and Trappers in the late game because in the late game, like around turn like 8, 9, 10, a 1 mana 5/5's not that great. And you would rather not play it to basically because you would not want to draw it. You would rather draw other cards in your deck in the late game, like freezes or decimates or whatever you're playing, or maybe a Shunpo or whatever. That's what I'm looking at when I look at Bloodbait. I'm like, Bloodbait, maybe the first or the second is fine because it will let you get guaranteed guaranteed lurks early on, but I don't think you want to play too many of them if you play even one at all. Because again, in the late game, you might not want to play a card like this because you were in the late game, you're probably looking for cards like Rek'Sai, cards like Zerzerath or whatever that Titan is called. But still, I do think it is playable as a 1 or 2 of to reach a critical amount of lurks in your deck, but I just am not too impressed by the card. Now, the next card. The card I think is the most powerful out of all of these cards, the List. I assume this is Pike's List, by the way. The List is a 0 mana card, 0 mana slow spell. Already kind of liking it because it's a 0 mana card. I like 0 mana cards. Free is always nice. The list says grant an enemy vulnerable. Okay, that's already really powerful. It's not temporary, it's permanent, it seems. It has more text. If it's already vulnerable, the strongest ally starts a free attack challenging it. Basically, Cataclysm from Demacia, sort of. Sure, you can't choose who will challenge the vulnerable unit, but it's your strongest ally, so it's probably going to be decent. Pretty cool with Renekton as well. Since it's 0 mana, it's always going to be a threat, even if you have no mana up. So your opponent's going to be like, oh no, my opponent just played like Merciless Hunter, or I guess even Redfin Hammersnout. And they maybe have like a Renekton or something on the field, or maybe if Pike has synergy, they have a Pike on the field. Do I have an answer to this, like a list play right here? There is a card similar to this already in Bilgewater, though. Also, a quick note, Ezreal synergy. I don't think this is the card to make Ezreal Bilgewater, like Ezreal TF, Ezreal Swain, a thing again. The reason Ezreal Bilgewater was good was because of a lot of reasons. One being like Riptide Rex was great, Make It Rain was good, Nab was pretty busted. I don't think the list is enough to make Ezreal or Bilgewater a consideration for Ezreal decks. Anyway, what was I saying? Oh yeah, I was talking about how there's a similar card like this already in the game. And that card is Ye Been Warned. Ye Been Warned, if you can't remember what it is a 1 mana slow spell that says give an enemy vulnerable for that round. So it's not permanent like the list is, but it also says if that enemy dies that round, draw 1. That's kind of cool. That card saw very, very fringe play in, again, those Ezreal decks because it would help level up Ezreal and it would help cycle because you're playing Ezreal. So even if you can't kill the unit by challenging it, you probably have things like Mystic Shots and Thermogenic Beams and so on and so forth. I think this card overall is better than Ye Been Warned, Ye Been Warned's not an amazing card, but it did see fringe play. So I do think this card is playable. Now, how playable is it? I think, honestly, it might even be a 3 of. At the very least, I think it's a 2 of. But yeah, between Redfin Hammersnout and Merciless Hunter and maybe even Bakai Sandspinner, I feel like you're probably going to have a lot of ways to get vulnerable to your enemy's units. And of course, you can play like in Shurima, there's also the Rek'Sai champ spell. I can't remember the name of it. It's like give an enemy vulnerable and give an ally +2/+0 for the round. That's another way to get vulnerable, which is nice. Maybe this might open up some weird like Shurima Bilgewater vulnerable challenger deck that uses Renekton. Anyway, though, there's a lot of potential with this card. I think this card is nuts. I could see this card honestly getting nerfed to 1 mana because 0 mana cards are always asking to be broken. And this card, unlike some of the other 0 mana cards we've seen this spoiler season, does a lot and is definitely worth a card slot in my opinion. Basically, I look at it as like a pseudo slow speed single combat, kind of, if that makes sense, but not really. Anyway, next card. This is the card I think is bad. Or maybe I just don't know how to evaluate it. Ripper's Bay. Ripper's Bay is a landmark. 1 mana landmark. It's a landmark that has lurk, so that's kind of cool. This is the first time I believe we've seen a landmark with a keyword on it. I don't think we've had a landmark that has like spell shield. You could give landmark spell shield, but I don't think we've had a landmark that has had a keyword like this before. Ripper's Bay says, when allies attack, discard the top card of your deck if it doesn't have lurk. Now, I'll say this real quick. I'm not sure if it does say discard, but I believe Riot themselves has come out and said that it's not actually discarding, it's obliterating. So when I first saw this card, I was like, oh, could you do some cute stuff like putting a vision back on top of your deck or predicting like a discard synergy card like a vision or a flame chompers onto the top of your deck? And or like again like bone skewering flame chompers or something or whatever onto the top of your deck. And I think Riot, I'm not 100% sure on this, but I think Riot has said that is a no. So I believe this might be getting this might be obliterating cards and not technically discarding them. And even if it did discard them so you could like play a vision by using the discard from Ripper's Bay, I don't think that's enough to make this card good. It is a 1 mana landmark, so you can't expect it to be too insanely powerful. But I mean, like Star Springs is pretty good for 2 mana. Star Tip Peaked is okay for 2 mana. And this is 1 mana. I think this is the first 1 mana landmark. I don't think we've ever had a 1 mana landmark that you can actually put in your deck. But yeah, I just don't know exactly why you would play this deck. Lurkers and lurk decks don't seem like the full out most aggressive decks, but I feel like on turn 1, 2, and 3, I'd rather be getting in some attacks and playing very mana efficiently, playing the 1-drop lurkers, playing the 2-drop lurkers, playing the 3-drop lurkers, and then playing this after like turn 3 or turn 4 and beyond feels weak to me. I just don't think this is worth a card. Like, maybe if it was 0 mana so you could play it and still play like a 1-drop on turn 1, sure, because it helps you guarantee lurks, but I just don't think this card does enough to merit a spot in the deck, in all honesty. Sure, it does have lurk, so it can help you hit a critical amount of lurks, but I think we have enough lurk cards in from the reveals, and we'll probably get a few more when we see Pike. But yeah, I think we have enough lurk cards that we don't need to play cards like this that are just kind of bad. So maybe I'm wrong. Maybe there's something I'm missing here, but I don't think Ripper's Bay is good. And now we have the last card. Very simple card here. We have Sharkling, just a lurker. So that's lurk. 1 mana, 1/2. That's it. Nothing else besides that. Just a 1 mana, 1/2 with lurk. I think this card is good. I think this card is really, really good. I feel like lurkers and lurk decks want to get on the board fast. They don't want to skip turn 1. They really want to get a 1-drop on the field. Between Sharkling and Xerxai Hatchling, that gives you 2 1-drops to try and get on the field quickly and lurk quickly. You can play other 1-drops, of course, but they won't have lurk. So I like this card. It really helps you out. A 1 mana 1/2, decent stats because it can grow. Again, like I said earlier, look at Bakai Reaper. Bakai Reaper is a 1 mana 1/2 fearsome that grows. Sure, it grows like really quickly because of the whole slay thing, but that's what I'm looking at Sharkling. I look at Sharkling as a Kai Reaper that grows a little bit slower, and I guess it doesn't have a fearsome keyword. The lack of a good offensive keyword like fearsome or maybe overwhelm, or even a defensive keyword like tough or something like elusive or anything really, I feel is what's going to hold this back from feeling oppressive. But I still think this card is good enough and going to be a key player in a Lurk deck. It will suck though. I feel like this card will suck if you like level up Rek'Sai and you get some Sharklings and you're like, man, I really needed some big Lurks, not a Sharkling. Like even Hammer Snout, I think would be fine to get from Rek'Sai because of the playability. Anyway, though, that's it for the cards that have been spoiled today. Hammer Snout, the list, and Sharkling, I think are all nuts and insane. I don't think any one of them are OP and need a nerf, but again, who knows? Maybe we'll see in the future. If I had to say any of them, I would say probably the list maybe could go up to 1 mana, but again, we'll have to see how good these cards are. I think Ripper's Bay is bad, but I could see the fact that I just don't know how to play it or what kind of deck it would go in or just how it should be used. Bloodbait I think is also bad, but I can see it getting played as a 1 or maybe even 2 of. Maybe I'm wrong. I'd love to hear down below in the comments. Maybe you think some cards I think are insane and nuts and good are bad. Maybe you think some cards I think are bad or good. I'd love to hear your reasons down below in the comments. Anyway, that's going to be it for the video. If you guys enjoyed it, please be sure to leave a like or a comment down below. If you'd like to keep up with the Legends of Runeterra content, of course, you could always go and subscribe to the channel. Always helps me out. And if you want to watch me play some Legends of Runeterra, you can go and check me out on twitch.tv where I stream pretty much every single day. But over at twitch.tv/Senatin. Anyway, though, with that all said and done, thank you all again once more for watching this video. And until I see you guys in the next one, bye.